Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Could I ask you all, please, to take your seats? Thank you. Just a few administrative points before we start. Could you please all make sure that you've got your mobiles on silent? After the lecture, Mr. Lim has kindly agreed to take some questions. Could you please wait until the Master has identified you to be the person to ask a question, and then wait for the microphone to come to you? And then, please, when you stand, could you state your name and your company, and speak clearly and hold the microphone near your mouth? Otherwise, we won't hear you. A recording of the lecture will be on our website in the next few days. My Lords, Aldermen, Chief Commoner, ladies and gentlemen, please stand and welcome the Lord Mayor Locum Tenens, Alderman and Sheriff Professor Michael Manelli, Mr. Kitak Lim, and the Master and Wardens of the World Traders Company. Please be seated. The Master of the World Traders Company, Mr. Peter Alvey.
Can you hear me? A warm welcome to the 33rd Tacitus lecture here in the Guildhall. We have a party of world traders watching by live stream in Christchurch, New Zealand, and many other places around the world. May I introduce Alderman and Sheriff Professor Michael Manelli, past Master of the World Traders, who is kindly standing in for the Lord Mayor of the City of London. Mr. Lim has kindly offered to take some questions at the end of the lecture. Thank you.
Master, Wardens, my Lords, fellow Aldermen, Chief Commoner, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to represent the City of London Corporation on this very special occasion, the 33rd Tacitus Lecture, and I bring you greetings from the Lord Mayor and the rest of the civic team. As a past master of this great company, on the 20th anniversary of our grant of livery in 2000, it is my honor to support this year's Master, Peter, and his theme of world trade flows. Trade is a force for good. World trade reaps economic benefits from specialization and comparative advantage, creates prosperity, distributes success and wealth, and enriches our societies and our communities. The World Traders' motto and company toast was inspired by Thomas Jefferson's inaugural address of 1801, commerce and honest friendship with all, and that includes intellectual commerce. We are in the middle of important and vibrant debates on the structure of the economy and the role of the city within it. At stake is nothing more than the future economic well-being of the nation. And where better to hold this annual event than the ancient Guildhall, which has stood at the heart of civic and national debate for centuries. Tonight, we use the City of London's premier annual intellectual event now in its fourth decade, to contrast two sections of the economy, shipping and sustainability. In 1992, Sir Crispin Ticknell's Tacitus lecture addressed trade and the environment, but tonight we're focused tighter on shipping. Shipping is fundamental to trade. Our founding master, Peter Drew, began this very company at St. Catherine's Dock, home to shipping and the World Trade Center movement. World Trader and former Lord Mayor, Lord Geoffrey Mount Evans, here with us this evening, used his year in office to point out how crucial shipping is to the UK and to the city. It's not just the Baltic Exchange and the International Maritime Organization. It's not just about 15% of the city's economy being dedicated to shipping, but around the UK, over 150,000 jobs, 15 times more than the fishing industry, which seems to catch today's headlines. Over £600 million a year just in tax revenues. And shipping is humanitarian. 3 weeks ago, we world traders worked together to source $500,000 of face masks and protection suits for the COVID-19 outbreak and ship them in containers from Antwerp to China. Sustainability needs little introduction in the city that created carbon trading in the late 1990s. Davos this year was dominated, as they say, by the Greta and the good. But according to a new UN report, the global warming outlook is much worse than originally predicted, which is pretty bad when they originally predicted it would destroy the planet. And the disturbing headline is that 3% to 4% of global greenhouse emissions are due to shipping. But meeting our sustainability targets will actually require selling the right things to the right people, building the right things at the right time, and moving things to where they do the right thing. In other words, shipping. And who better to navigate us through the Scylla of shipping and the Charybdis of sustainability than Mr. Ki-Tak Lim. I met Ki-Tak 6 years ago doing work on a maritime index for Busan. Having graduated from the Korea Maritime and Ocean University in Busan, he served as a naval officer on real ships. He obtained a master's degree on ship inspection and another master's degree from the World Maritime University on accident investigation. He held a number of governmental jobs in maritime safety, culminating in running the port of Busan from 2012 to 2016, turning it into one of the top 3 global ports. In 2016, he was elected as Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization, and last year he was reappointed to serve until the end of 2023. So, I congratulate the World Traders' work over the past 4 decades and hand over to Mr. Ki-Tak Lim to deliver our 33rd Tacitus Lecture. Thank you.
Master, wardens, my lords, old men, sheriff, chief commoner, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you all. It is a great honor for me to have been invited to deliver this Tacitus lecture for 2020. In this magnificent and historic setting of the Guildhall, I have been engaged in the maritime industry for my entire working life, from being a naval officer to the president of Busan Port. Now I have the great honor and the privilege of heading the International Maritime Organization, United Nations agency responsible for the regulatory framework of the international shipping. Luckily, we are all IMO staff members are very proud of our organization, located in the true traditional maritime city, London in UK, where we can find the full of a maritime legacy and culture. What I hope to do today is to show you, first, the ships and the shipping are absolutely essential to the lives of everyone on the planet. Second, our work within UN family is actively bringing broad, universal values to create a level playing field and incentivize innovation and sustainability. And third, how IMO is safeguarding a global regulatory framework that leaves no one behind, whilst ensuring that the maritime industry adapts to future challenges and embraces opportunities to foster sustainable development and economic growth. I want to talk to you about sustainable shipping for a sustainable planet, which is the theme we have chosen for 2020 to underpin our contribution to the UN Decade of Action for Sustainable Development, which has just begun. But let me begin a bit closer to home. I wonder how many of you, after your busy day at work, ever choose to relax in an armchair and watch some TV. Maybe you have a snack, perhaps a drink. Some, like myself, enjoy an occasional glass of wine. Millions of people all over the world do something like this every day. It does not occur to many of them to thank shipping for these simple pleasures. Yet their TV probably arrived in the container ships. The grain that made the bread in the sandwich came in the bulk carriers. Your drink of choice probably came by the sea too, as did the glass and the plate. The furniture in the room may be been imported by sea, or if locally produced, the timber arrived from overseas in the log carriers. Indeed, if you look around, almost everything you see has been touched by shipping in some way. Raw material, component parts, finished goods, fuel, and food are all moved around the world by ship. I believe you present here today understand more than others how much shipping and the trade are contributing to the world economy and connecting all people around the world. As you're well aware, shipping carries more than 80% of world trade, largely because ships enjoy unrivaled superiority of all other forms of transport when it comes to carrying massive quantity of cargo cost-effectively, efficiently, cleanly, and safely. During 2018, the over 95,000 merchant ships carried a record 11 billion tons of cargo. When you factor in the distance traveled, estimates says shipping was responsible for some 58,000 billion ton miles, a truly staggering figure. Although cargo transport slumped dramatically during 2018, and the industry today faces external challenges that are likely to make next decades a period of a systematic change. For now, I want to stress that the shipping affects us all, and we all rely on it. Every one of us owes a debt of gratitude to this large, unsung industry. What do I mean by saying shipping is an unsung industry? Well, of all the sectors that make up the global transport infrastructure, shipping has a relatively low public profile. Most people are very familiar with the air travel, including all its rituals and the frustrations. Railway trains not only cross vast empty plains, but also rattle through the busy cities and towns. The lorries, cars, and vans that crowd road network are part of our everyday life. But by contrast, most people rarely encounter a ship, except perhaps for the occasional trip on a ferry or a cruise ship, or in the distance on the horizon while at the seaside. This is true even in many coastal cities. As ships grew exponentially in size, the second half of the 20th century, maritime traffic migrated from traditional port area to purpose-built, dedicated sites away from the main center of a population, meaning that for most people, shipping is out of sight and out of mind. All this means that the people tended to have a very outdated idea of what modern shipping looks like. I don't know if any of you have ever visited a modern ship, but if you get a chance, I urge you to take it and be prepared to change some of your preconceptions. You are more likely to find the ship being controlled by a single joystick or a mouse ball in the hand of the navigator, rather than by a sailor struggling with a spoked wheel. The chief engineer will spend as much time tapping a keyboard as using as a spanner. So today, the ships that we all rely on are modern, technologically advanced workplace. And as I hope to show you now, the work of IMO plays an important role in the shaping these developments. I mentioned earlier, IMO is one of the 15 UN specialized agencies. To put that in the context, other specialized agencies you may be familiar with include FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, WHO, the World Health Organization, now more visible due to coronavirus, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. You may ask, how does shipping fall under the gauge of the United Nations? Shipping is perhaps the most international of all the world's great industries. The ownership, management, operational chain surrounding any particular vessel can include many different countries. It is not unusual to find that the owner, financiers, builders, operators, charterers, insurers, and the classification societies, not to mention the officers and the crew, are all of different nationalities. And none of these are from the country where the ship is registered or flagged. Not only that, the nature of shipping means these huge assets spend their lifetime moving between continents and the countries in international waters. There is, therefore, a clear need for a framework of international standards to regulate shipping. That is where IMO comes in. To fully understand the history of IMO, I have to start well before its establishment in 1948 with the most famous of maritime disasters, the sinking of the Titanic on 15th April 1912, which after hitting in an iceberg resulted in the death of over 1,500 people. as would be the case many times in the future. This major maritime accident proved to be the catalyst for the adoption in 1914 of the first international convention for the safety of life at the sea called SOLAS, which first entered into force in 1933. But it was not until the United Nations was established after World War II that a permanent international body was set up to develop and maintain international standards for shipping. In 1948, an international conference in Geneva adopted a convention formally establishing what is now IMCO. In the beginning, it was called IMCO, now it is called IMO. This came into force in 1958, and the new organization met for the first meeting in the following year. IMO commenced its work by updating and strengthening safety measures under the SOLAS Convention. However, its remit soon expanded to consider the environmental impacts of shipping. As with the international safety regulation, it all started with a major environmental disaster, the Torrey Canyon oil spill off the southwest coast of the UK in 1967, spilling an estimated 25 to 36 million gallons of crude oil, an event some of you might remember. It led to significant changes in the international safety regulations, but more notably to the adoption of the IMO's second major instrument, the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, or it is called MAPOL. Enough of the history lessons. What does IMO do today, and why does it matter to so many other people all over the world? Over time, IMO's mandate expanded to legal, security matters, and efficiency of navigation, as well as technical cooperation and capacity building. Today, IMO has 174 member states, as well as 143 NGOs and IGOs with observer status, and maintain a comprehensive body of 50 international conventions supported by literally hundreds of guidelines and recommendations that govern a ship's life cycle from the cradle to the grave, from ship's design and construction through ship navigation to ship recycling. Broadly speaking, IMO's instruments fall into 4 categories: safety, environmental protection, efficiency of navigation, and compensation. The first category ensures the safety of ships, navigation, as well as seafarers, fishermen, passengers, through global standards for ship design, construction, equipment, operation, and crewing, but also seafarers and fishermen's qualification, training, and safety management and operation by shipping companies. The second category ensures the protection of the environment from shipping activities, with rules concerning the prevention of marine pollution by oil and other harmful substances, air pollution, and emission from ships, and oil spill cleanup and response mechanism. The third category ensures the efficiency of navigation by facilitating international maritime traffic, including the arrival, stay, departure of ships, persons, and cargo from ports. The final category is concerned with the aftermath of accidents, in particular with establishing mechanisms for ensuring that those who suffer the consequences of an accident, like seafarers, passengers, and the pollution victims' environment, can receive adequate compensation. The only aspect of international shipping that IMO is not engaged with is the commercial operation aspect of ships. Aside from our regulatory work, a key part of IMO's contribution to the sustainability agenda is our technical cooperation work. If the benefits of sustainable growth are to be evenly spread, all countries must be able to play a full active part in the global supply chain and build strong transport infrastructure. IMO recognizes not all its member states have an equal ability to participate in maritime activities or implement the measures agreed at IMO, which is why we have established extensive technical cooperation and capacity building programs to assist developing countries in the implementation of IMO instrument. Typically, this involves arranging training, workshop, and seminar on particular subjects. We operate over 100 global programs each year, ranging from providing technical advisory services to support sustainable development and the blue economy. We are currently also implementing around 10 donor-funded long-term projects, among others, the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, technology transfer, and maritime security in partnership with the UN Environment Programme and the European Union and IMO member states. We have also founded 2 educational institutions, which are the World Maritime University in Sweden and the International Maritime Law Institute in Malta, which are designed principally to offer advanced education in maritime subjects to students, mainly from less developed countries. So, as I hope you can see, it is largely thanks to IMO that the travel-free transport of billions of tons of goods by sea is possible. It is also, I must add, a testimony to the highly responsible attitude within the shipping industry itself, at all levels, and the fantastic spirit of collaboration displayed among IMO member states. Let me now move on to the second part of what I would like to talk to you today. IMO is a part of the United Nations family. As I'm sure you know, UN family acts across the whole range of areas under the broad objective of creating better and fairer society for everyone to live in the words of the UN Charter, to promote social progress and the better standard of life. So how does this apply to shipping and to our work as the industry regulators? Today, action on these core values of the United Nations system is focused around the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, adopted in 2015. This agenda calls for action by all countries to eradicate poverty and achieve sustainable development while protecting the planet from environmental degradation by 2030 worldwide. Helping other member states achieve the 2030 agenda is one of our key goals. Aside from the key role shipping plays as the carrier of global trade, maritime activities also provide an important source of income to many developing countries. Indeed, developing countries now lead the world in some of the shipping most important auxiliary businesses, including ship legislation, the provision of seafarers, and ship services. They also play a significant part in the ship owning and operating, shipbuilding and repair, and port services. It is widely recognized that most of the elements of the 2030 Agenda will only be achieved with the sustainable transport sectors, including shipping and the port, supporting world trade and facilitating the global economy. Every single piece of IMO's all-embracing regulatory structure and the capacity-building activities creates the condition in which international shipping can cooperate, can operate sustainably, safely, securely, and with the minimal impact on the global environment. This is central pillar of IMO's mission. This brings me to a third point. How is IMO ensuring that the maritime industry adapts to future challenges and takes advantage of opportunities to foster sustainable global trade and economic growth? Shipping is entering a new era driven by regulatory imperatives, by commercial necessities, by changing social expectations, and by new technologies. There will be more changes in shipping over the next 10 years than in the past 50 years. So what are the challenges and opportunities facing the shipping industry today? Digitalization, big data, and new technologies such as artificial intelligence and robotics have the potential to take shipping and the maritime community into the bright new future. One of these future scenarios is autonomous shipping, which has the potential to redefine our industry. Modern ships already include complex automated systems, which have allowed for a gradual reduction in the onboard manning, increased data collection, processing, and interconnectivity capability, enabling automated systems to be controlled remotely or through artificial intelligence, may ultimately result in unmanned ships in the future. This has the potential to increase safety, improve environmental performance, and enable more cost-effective shipping. These technologies are developing rapidly, and autonomous ships are currently being trialed in some of the sea areas. However, the operation of autonomous ships will need to be at least as safe as existing vessels if they are to secure regulatory approval, the support of ship owners, operators, seafarers, and the wider public acceptance. Most predictions are that autonomous or semi-autonomous operation would be limited to short voyage. However, it is clear that the level of automation in the maritime industry will increase substantially. IMO is now working to ensure shipping can embrace the digital and automation revolution while ensuring safety, environmental protection, as well as cybersecurity. These are exciting times. This may be the era of technology, but IMO never forgets the men and the women on board and assure enabling the smooth operation of our international industry. I cannot stress enough how essential the over 1.6 million seafarers and over 40 million fishermen worldwide are for safe, sustainable shipping and fishing. The well-being of seafarers and fishermen remains a priority for IMO. Their health, education, safety, legal protection are vital issues for us. I can assure that for shipping industry as well. I have pledged to ensure that maritime personnel are always one of the first considerations in any measure that are debated and adopted at IMO. And this includes our continued support for gender equality. Shipping has historically been a male-dominated industry, and women are still severely underrepresented. The employment of women in all industries is a crucial driver to ensure sustainable growth and global prosperity. Promoting gender equality in the maritime world has been on the IMO agenda for over 30 years. It was our major focus of our work last year, particularly, and will continue to be central to our work going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest single challenge we are faced today is the fight against global warming and the climate change. Everyone has a responsibility, and the shipping has already commenced its work, but more needs to be done. Decarbonization is an objective. In 2018, IMO adopted a detailed initial strategy to achieve it with clear goals and ambitions. That emissions from shipping should peak as soon as possible, and that total annual GHG emission should be reduced by at least 50% by 2050 compared to 2008. If it is interpreted to individual ships, it means individual ship has to reduce its emission by over 80%, while at the same time pursuing effort toward phasing them out entirely as soon as possible in this century. This initial strategy will be finalized by 2023 based on further research, study, and experience projecting toward 2050. This strategy is helping to drive shipping's transformation toward a sustainable, decarbonized future. Our challenge now is to ensure it is implemented and its ambitions realized. It won't be easy. Ships have a relatively long lifespan, and the global trading is still predicted to rise. This means that to deliver this strategy, significant numbers of zero-carbon ships or ships that can be easily adapted to use low or zero-carbon fuels will have to enter the fleet as early as the 2030s. New technologies, new fuels will be vital if our targets are to be met. I'm certain that these ambitious regulatory targets will act as the catalyst for technology, triggering research, development, and innovation. While research into developing zero-carbon marine fuels is underway with hydrogen, ammonia, or biofuels considered viable options, more action is needed to speed up this process. To achieve this, IMO is stepping up its efforts to act as the global forum and the promoter of R&D in zero-carbon marine fuels, bringing together interested stakeholders from around the world. The first steps are being taken by the shipping industry, which has shown its commitment by proposing the creation of a new $5 billion R&D fund based on a mandatory fuel levy. This proposal will be discussed at IMO in April this year soon. But it must be a collaborative effort. Industry, government, financial sectors, others, all have their responsibility and are expected to play their part. Now is time for action on climate change. We have seen such a collaborative effort before many times. In recent years, for example, IMO member states and the shipping and the oil bunkering industry, many other stakeholders worked tirelessly to pave the way for the harmonized and the smooth entry into force of a global reduction in the sulfur content in the ship's fuel oil from 3.5 to 0.5%, usually referred to as IMO 2020. It appears that preparation efforts have reaped benefits as the implementation of this regulation, dubbed by some as the most controversial regulation in the history of this organization. This is going smoothly. The benefits of IMO 2020, which started January this year, cannot be overstated. It is estimated that hundreds of thousands of lives, particularly those living in coastal areas, will be prolonged as a result of this regulation. The shipping industry has come together to have a hugely beneficial impact on human health. But of course, IMO's current work is not only limited to air pollution. The protection of our ocean is vital to ensure a healthy planet. Shipping is just one of many stakeholders competing for use of the ocean. The world oceans provide raw material, energy, food, employment, a place to live, and a place to relax. This so-called blue economy of ocean-related activities is expanding rapidly. But the blue economy must be balanced and sustainable. It must not come at the expense of the ocean and the marine ecosystems. Marine plastic litter is a major concern. All of you may have seen the devastating pictures of the turtles or seals entangled in the plastic or fishing gear. Although over 80% of marine litter is estimated to be land-based, and the discharge of the garbage from ships has been prohibited since the 1980s. IMO is strengthening its work to further reduce marine litters, and in particular plastics from merchant ships and the fishing vessels through a marine plastic litter action plan. IMO has also started to consider measures to reduce underwater noise. Noise can negatively impact ocean animals and ecosystem by reducing their ability to communicate with the group members, avoid predators, find food, and navigate. Through its many initiatives on ocean matters, IMO underpins development of the maritime sector and the blue economy. We are currently also witnessing the development of new trading routes, which can affect trade flow permanently. The increase of shipping activity in the Arctic and the potential opening of the Northwest Passage or Arctic route can provide shipping with many opportunities, even though, sadly, these are caused by climate change. The opening of the Arctic shipping route, for example, would cut thousands of miles and weeks of a journey from China or Japan to Europe that currently go through the Panama Canal or Suez Canals. This increase in activity can expose ships which operate in the harsh Arctic and Antarctic region and the region themselves to many unique risks, which is why ship safety and the protection of the pristine environment around the poles have always been on IMO's agenda. The most important comprehensive protection of mechanism is the Polar Code developed by IMO, rightly seen as a historic milestone in the organization's work. Yet there is still need for further work. The maritime infrastructure for ships operating polar waters must be further strengthened. Navigational chart, search and rescue facilities, comprehensive network of icebreaker support, port reception facilities, and the provision of maritime safety information all needed to be addressed by the shipping community to ensure safe and environmentally sound voyages. To progress this work, in collaboration with the member state, IMO has been participating in the Arctic Council as an observer member since last year. Changing global trade flow also intensified the strain placed on international shipping in other areas of the world. The change caused by moderate growth in the global economy, trade tension, and the global conflict have a lasting impact on the landscape shipping operates in. Security threats to the port and the shipping sectors continue to evolve, affecting shipping routes with an impact on global trade, but most importantly posing life-threatening risk to seafarers. Emerging issues include the fallout from piracy and armed robbery, particularly in the Gulf of Guinea. There is a need for global and regional efforts to fight these threats. IMO, through the cooperation among littoral states, is trying to make progress in the strengthening the support to countries around the world to boost their maritime security capability. The successful approach in the Gulf of Aden, which reduced piracy incidents significantly, is expected to be utilized in the Gulf of Guinea to ensure the security of ships, but in particular, the seafarers. The new landscape is also characterized by a large role played by technology and a focus on the increased efficiency across the supply chain. Let's take, for example, our work in enhance the trade efficiency. Knowing the many challenges awaiting shipping and international trade in coming decades, IMO is working to ensure the adoption of technologies that increase the connectivity and efficiency of working practices in maritime transport and ship management, be it in the marine communications or the exchange of information in the ship-to-ship as well as ship-to-shore interfaces. Cooperation and communication between shipping, port, and logistics will be vital to enhance the efficiency and the sustainability of shipping, therefore facilitate trade, foster economic growth and prosperity. Capitalizing on technological advances will be a simple and effective way to make shipping and the whole supply chain much more efficient. But to address these challenges properly, many different stakeholders will have to work together. Communication, cooperation, collaboration, and consensus are key to our success. And IMO has a long tradition in all of these elements. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a fact that today we live in global society, supported by global economy, but that this economy simply could not function if it were not for ships and the shipping industry. The benefits of sustainable global economic growth are clear. Prosperity is more widely spread. Skill and technology can be widely shared, and both individuals and the countries can take advantage of previously unimagined opportunities. Trade tension, the global shift toward protectionism, and yes, the demand of meeting increasingly rigorous environmental expectations all contribute to short-term economic prospects for shipping being not bright. Nevertheless, international maritime trade is still predicted to grow by an average 3.5% over the 2019 and 2024 period. But we are concerned about the effect of the coronavirus. But that is because whatever else may happen, one thing is certain: we may live in a time of fundamental shift in the social and the geopolitical order and the growing uncertainty around the trade. But the movement of raw material, energy, and the transport and manufactured goods and the products between continents would not be possible without the cost-efficient maritime transport. And these are things on which sustainable growth and the development will depend. Shipping remains unchallenged as the carrier of raw material and the finished product that people everywhere want and need. It must meet increasing demand of its customers and of society regarding environmental and social performance. It must continually adjust to new expectations and development. Of course, at the same time, there is equally strong pressure to achieve economic sustainability. Are these two objectives compatible? Higher standards of safety and environmental performance often come at the initial financial cost, but they also provide opportunity to find truly effective and financially sound long-term solutions. Research and development can both improve environmental performance and the safety and cut operating costs overall over time. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, shipping is entering an exciting new age. Under the banner of IMO, all relevant stakeholders, including government, the shipping industry, port, technology supplier, academia, investors, environment group, shipbuilding as well, are actively working to ensure that shipping has a truly sustainable future so that people everywhere can continue to reap the benefits of an industry that fundamentally rely on but rarely see. With this, I would like to thank the World Trade Company for inviting me to provide the Tacitus lecture, and wish all present here every success and prosperity. Whenever you may know already well the IMO and the location, but whenever you have another chances when you pass by IMO, please call me, my chief of staff, or my the staff, and we will have another good dialogue, another opportunity to exchange views at the IMO building. We are very honored, very privileged to work in IMO, which is located by the River Thames, with very nice views and a very nice terrace. Particularly, IMO's cafeteria, excellent, super excellent. So whenever you any chance, if by chance, usually we use the IMO inside the card. By chance, if you do not have a small coin, to cashier, please put on IMO Secretary General's my account. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. We'll now take the questions. Where Nick Mayhew is.
Hello, I am Yasmina Abdul Al, and I'm from the Totteridge Academy. And I would like to ask, what's going to be the biggest disruption to shipping world trade in the next 50 years, and how will Brexit impact it? Thank you.
Thank you for raising the point. As I mentioned in the address, in terms of policy, we are facing most important challenge, which is climate change issues. Climate change issues eventually affect all mode of shipping business in terms of design and engine, fuel, operation, etc. So climate change issues the biggest impact to the shipping. Why? It is taking place together with automation, digitalization, automation issues. That's both taking place at the same time. That's why biggest impact to the shipping. So we have to be very wise to handle and observe this kind of development in our work. But the climate change is, everybody knows, it is a mega trend we cannot avoid. But the IMO member states are working hard. And when it comes to it is a policy aspect, but when it comes to the biggest challenge, as I'm working as a Secretary General, we have 174 member states. In order to agree to certain consensus, we have the certain common understanding among our member states. So it is not easy to make a certain the consensus. So there is a lot of difficult process of discussion until we reach this one. So that's why, but sometimes we face certain regional approach. From time to time, it may happen. So, but we believe that when it comes to achieve a level playing field, global and universal regulation when it comes to shipping should be established and maintained by our organization, IMO. And when it comes to impact of Brexit issues, actually from financial point of view, it is not actually a big impact except some the difference of the exchange rate, but we haven't formally discussed the impact of the Brexit, within the shipping or IMO the arena. But I believe Brexit it also give a certain momentum, certain the dynamic, the opportunity for shipping industry can be more dynamic and more active. So this is what I have in mind from a positive side. So overall, we are preparing for the period of Brexit and observing development, but substantially, financially, we are not having a big impact. Thank you.
Lord Mount Evans.
Secretary General, first of all, congratulations for a tremendous wide-ranging review, which I'm sure we all appreciate it very much. And we're very honored to have you here this evening. And as a man like yourself who spent his entire life in shipping, I'm so pleased to have the shipping story rolled out a little bit to this very distinguished audience tonight. I have two questions. First of all, you mentioned, Secretary General, something about the IMO 2020 rules. And you said that it had been successfully introduced. These are very profound changes, and there was a lot of concern and worry in the industry as we approach the end of the year. You said it's been very successful, the transition. I wonder if you could give us any detail on that. It's early days. And my second question, if I may, I was very fascinated to hear you say about the work IMO is engaging on to reduce underwater noise for underwater animal life. I'm ashamed to say I wasn't aware of that. Can you give us a little bit more information on that? Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Excellencies. He has my fullest respect. Huge reach is the professional career. I respect you very much. When it comes to IMO 2020, it is a big issue, actually. It's a bigger issue than IMO thought. Final decision was made in October 2016 by many regulators. But actually, it is something which needs support, not only shipping industry, but also a ship repair yard for scrubber issues, and the oil industry to produce compliant oil, and the bunkering service to deliver this compliant oil. So all different kind of the stakeholder actually beyond the IMO's remit. So it is an area we cannot actually directly control. So that's why we were very concerned. So now we have particularly whole last year from January until December, we had, together with the member state and the relevant industry, I believe we have our best. This year, about 2 months has passed from January. We, last year, end of December, we opened a special email address, which we can receive any instance relevant to the implementation of IMO 20, any part of the world, and we receive which need a thorough interpretation of the situation, non-compliance oil issues, oil quality issues, or post-haul control issues. So we opened this one, but until now, yesterday, we have only some less than 30 cases was received. So this way, generally speaking, we advertise this one to all stakeholders, but generally speaking, is much smoother than we worried about. Having said that, when it comes to shipping industry, which is really directly operating ships, they are actually concerned about the everyday life, everyday operation of ships. So how much they secure to buy compliant oil, and what is how they face post-state control, which need a certain interpretation, and also how they secure quality of fuel which is delivered by the bunkering industry. So they are running ships daily on their daily basis, that they are more concerned than actually regulators. So we try to understand as much as possible. So level of worrying, level of like a concern, it must be bigger than regulators by the ship operators. This is what I understand. But so generally, it has been, we believe it has been very good, and really appreciate all in the oil refinery and bunkering industry and the shipping company and also the shipyard as well. So particularly, I really appreciate shipping company for that the active participation. When it comes to noise, actually noise has been mentioned already a few years ago, but actually according to the data and the analysis, there is this noise actually giving impact to the sea mammals in terms of their health, as I mentioned, communication, putting them in the difficulties or dangerous situation. So this is proposed and from our member state. So we are now, take up these issues to look into more. So what we are encouraging more like outcome of research work study about this one to report it, to submit to the IMO, and we get some more substantial discussion. But already some outcome of a study already submitted to the IMO, but we are collecting more information about these issues. Why this issue is very serious? We are having climate change issues. It is affecting design and engine oil, etc. But noise is coming, ship's vibration. Ship's vibration. Reducing ship's vibration need highly advanced technology, actually. It's relevant to the engine quality, operation, and the fuel oil as well. So we have the climate change issues, and as I mentioned, in order to meet our target, we are having R&D work of the fuel, future fuel oil, hydrogen or ammonia or biogas, etc. Also, this comes together. So this comes together considered by other issues. So, and also it needs a lot of high-level technology. So I believe this can be achieved to some extent together with our work, together with the climate change and future fuel oil issues as well. But it is going on now. Thank you very much.
Can we have a question from a student, please?
My name is Zayad Amini. I'm from George Green School of Business and Faculty of Excellence. The question I have is, you said that there's going to be more technological advances. If so, then how is that going to benefit the youth that want to be involved in the future of maritime?
Yes, thank you for the question. Actually, technology is advancing more rapidly than we expected. So also, as I mentioned, the automation, digitalization is moving fast. And also, not only member state, our regional body as well, like a European Union, they have also one of agenda priority in terms of digitalization. So digitalization, particularly, and data management is moving together. At the same time, we are dealing with automation issues. So automation, together with the digitalization and the data management, it's moving together. So that's why this process, it takes a lot of effort and R&D, but it is moving. It is expected to take place more faster than we expected. If it is the case, we may face a big change, big shape of shipping industry. Like if it is less people on board, then there should be certain mechanism, support from shore when ship enter the port. And also there should be not more information sharing system among stakeholders, shipping company, agent, custom, police, post authority, etc. Those ship information sharing center or function should be encouraged. At the same time, we have to handle more properly cybersecurity. Cybersecurity comes very close to us, together with the development of technology development, autonomous issues, and digitalization issues. So we are preparing very cautiously, meticulously for the development of technology. Thank you.
Lucas Spiliotopoulos.
Thank you. Lucas Spiliotopoulos, fellow world trader. If you had the knowledge of today, the facts of global warming and the environment on one side, but also the resistance of the market on the other side, and you could go back to 2008 or even earlier than that, but you had the privilege of the knowledge of today, would you still implement 2020 IMO, or would you do it earlier or perhaps later? But most importantly, why?
You mean implementation of the 2020, the low sulfur issues?
Yes.
Low sulfur issues, as I mentioned earlier, it is already once agreed 2008 whether it would be implemented 2020 or 2025. So 2008 made the first decision and leave a final decision to 2016 for decision whether 2020 or 2025. So there has been a lot of discussion and debate based on certain technological survey or R&D, etc. Then October 2016, there was a decision, a big debate whether 2025 or 2020. But there was a lot of discussion based on analytical data about that issues, and member state decide to go for the year 2020. Having said that, since then there was a lot of opinion or request from industry who were more concerned about the implementation or some difficulties facing. I fully understand why. Shipping company, when they ask, how do you prepare? They answer, we have to know how much oil industry produce low sulfur fuel oil, compliant fuel oil. If you ask the oil industry, they answer, respect to the amount of the compliant fuel oil we are producing, is subject to demand from shipping company. So chicken egg game. So it was very difficult. So we had get together to invite all stakeholders, oil industry, bunkering service, shipping company, shipyard, etc. All get together, talk about how to handle this one. So that effort lasted, at least full last year, and also it happened 2018 as well. Based on this one, we put our highest our effort to handle this one until December. Okay. If we change the implementation date or time, it may cause huge chaos to all relevant stakeholders. We know the shipping company may face difficulties, practical difficulties, we understand. But we believe it is wiser to remove difficulties as much as possible faced by the shipping company rather than change implementation. Legal point of view, we have a certain legal mechanism. In order to change a certain time, it should be at least we have 1.5 years. So theoretically, legally, we couldn't change. So this is an issue, and also it has a lot of benefit, like air pollution issues, and contributing actually the air pollution, and also it is beneficial to the human health. So that's why we have to work harder to maintain properly implementation of this IMO 20. So I really appreciate your continuous support for this.
This next question will have to be the last one, and there's a gentleman over here.
Good afternoon. I'm Ravi Malhotra, chairman of Foresight Group, which deals in shipping and oil drilling. Both are in the ocean. My question is two forms. One is we must congratulate my friend Mr. Kitak Lim. What he has achieved is a Herculean task, capable of a Nobel Prize. That from the 1st January, he has implemented the 2020 task, which will have an effect of reducing carbon footprint by 20% in shipping, if I'm right. So I will request all my...
Can you tell us what your question is, please?
Yes, I will request my all World Trade partners to clap for this, his success.
Could we have a real last question,
And my
please?
second question is to him, what he wants to achieve before he hands over his post. Thank you very much.
Well, actually, I really appreciate Chairman Rabi. Chairman Rabi is running a large size of fleet, shipping fleet, but I have met quite often from time to time at different receptions. But Chairman Rabi never ever mentioned to me about difficulties to face IMO 2020 or the climate change issues. I confess, I have it now as well. I have a full respect to Chairman Rabi for your meticulous consideration of the IMO policy. For the next the few years, I myself or IMO, we would like to strengthen solidarity for our main policy issues. As I mentioned, the climate change issues will be initial strategy adopted 2018 and finalized 2023, which is projecting 2050. So 2023 is very important. So we have to make a very nice progress to meet our target, and also to some extent we need to revise our plan. Also we have to take a real substantial action plan. So this year, next year is very, very crucial in terms of the finalizing by 2023. In that sense, we need more solidarity among member states. So at the same time, I really appreciate without the support from industry, we cannot make progress. So industry is the end user of the IMO Convention in terms of implementation. So I really, really appreciate you continue provide the full support what we are doing. But in the course of that, always we will listen to your voice, a real voice from industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lim, for a very informative, educational talk telling us about the challenges facing the maritime industry and all of us. Many of you here might not know that the big Richard Charvet bequest in the World Traders Charitable Trust funds 2 places at the Worldwide Maritime Organization University in Malmö. I would like to present you with a check for the Mission to Seamen, which is your chosen charity. You better sit down again. We look forward to seeing you in the old library for drinks and canapes, where some of you might be able to ask Kitak a few more questions, as it'll be an open area. And also, for those of you who are interested in finding out more about the World Traders, there is a table with some literature on for your information. Thank you very much, all of you, and I hope you've enjoyed it.